Hello everyone, welcome once again to Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
And today we're doing a very special podcast for you. We're going to be doing a podcast commentary on one of my favorite movies of all time, Nobody Judge Me, Field of Dreams.
I've never seen Nobody Judge Me, Field of Dreams.
Yeah, I think they should have just taken off the front part of that.
Yeah, I think they did. I think they just left it with the subtitle.
Oh, okay.
Field of Dreams.
There used to be a colon there.
Yeah, Nobody Judge Me, Field of Dreams.
No. So anyway, this was originally supposed to be part of a two-part series, but it's been months, so I'll remind everyone once again. It's been a while since Vince and I have been able to get together to do a commentary, so yay, commentary time.
Commentary!
And Vince, we did Ghostbusters together.
We did, this is a fact.
Because which was loads of fun, by the way, and that was our, the movie that we decided to pick from Vince's childhood. So the idea was we would pick a movie that kind of helped define Vince when he was a kid, and one that kind of helped define me when I was a kid. So Vince picked Ghostbusters, and I went with kind of the far left field.
I get it.
And let me quickly kind of give you a little bit of a preamble here of why I chose this movie. Because and why I like this movie so much, because Field of Dreams is something that I grew up with. It's something I watched a lot with my mom, and I was never a baseball person. I was never a sports person, so it's kind of strange that this was the one that stuck with me. But obviously, I'll talk about stuff I like about it as we go along. But I think Vince and I are really similar in that we both are kind of suckers for father-son stories.
Yeah.
And that, coupled with the fact that this just had an aesthetic about it, it's like...
That's why I like The Stepfather so much.
I was really appreciated the small town atmosphere of this, the really kind of intimate character story, but also it's whimsical, and it was a thing that always stuck with me. But I'm not gonna deny that there's some sappy here, and I usually resist that kind of thing. And in a lot of ways, this kind of thing is kind of like soap operas for guys, not really. I guess comic books are more that.
Oh, that's fair. No, that's fair.
But you know what I mean? No. Actually, come to think of it, it's more like a chick flick. It's more like if guys had a chick flick, it'd be this movie.
Yeah.
So anyway, Vince, how long has it been since you've seen this?
Oh, actually, probably about a year or so.
Oh, okay, cool. So you will probably know this well enough to talk about it. Okay.
I recall what happens largely.
That's good. Okay, cool. So anyway, if you have your copy of Field of Dreams, go ahead and rig up your DVD or your Blu-ray or however you're watching it. Past the menus and everything to timestamp 0. Get it to the main track of the film so that you can watch it along with us if you want to listen to this as a commentary. You can listen to this just as a podcast if you'd like. For the last 3 minutes, you've all been doing it that way. And if you want to listen to it just as a podcast, Vince and I are going to do our level best to give you a little bit of context as we go along for what's going on screen and what we're talking about. This movie was released in 1989, Vince, which is my favorite year.
Yeah, 1989, Vince.
1989, Vince. Would you stop that?
It's a great year.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started here. Everybody, get ready to press play. We've got ours rigged up. And everybody, please press play right now.
Ooh, it's pretty. You guys have no context. What's Purdy? He'll never let me know. The Universal logo. Oh, he let us know, thank goodness.
Oh yeah, it's the old new Universal logo.
The new Universal.
That's the one that was new when it was 1997. It said so.
Oh my god, I'm totally judging you right now. Just so judging you harshly.
What do you mean?
Well, you said not to judge you.
Oh. Was this one that you watched when you were a kid very much?
Yeah, well, I've seen it a few times. It wasn't something that I watched a lot, but my dad is kind of big into sort of the manly things. He likes westerns, and he likes sports movies. He likes sports. Gasp, shock, and awe.
Yeah.
So I'm not foreign to some of these things. So in fact, there are some sports movies that did ring true for me when I was a kid. one of them was Angels in the Outfield. I loved that movie.
That's
so much.
hilarious. Yeah, I watched that a lot when I was a kid too. In fact, that was on my top 10 list when I did that list with Sarah of movies I saw too many times when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I used to love that movie. And
Uh,
part of me does not want to go back and watch it because I feel like it might not hold up. But I am talking about the one with Danny Glover. I think
Yes.
that was a remake.
uh,
I could be wrong about that. I have no
I
idea.
don't remember if there was one. I mean, that's the one everybody thinks of when you say that. I don't know if there was one before that, but yeah, Christopher Lloyd,
Yeah.
Danny Glover.
I did not see Angels in the Infield because who cares?
Yeah, no, I didn't watch any of the direct-to-video sequels.
Brian Frankish. He's not fully Frank, just a little Frankish.
That was one of the first movies that why am I blanking on his name? You know, the guy who played Robin in Dark Knight Rises.
yeah. Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That was one of his first movies.
I forgot about
That might have actually been his first movie.
Yeah, he did well.
And then, if you'll remember, he was in. Well, I don't know if you watched much sitcoms in the '90s, but he was in Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah, he was. That's right. I enjoyed Third Rock. It was okay. I kind of fell off at the end, though.
Yeah, me too.
You know, one of the things about this movie that I think is pretty charming is it seems to have this big respect for history and lineage, and so it's not just a father-son story. It's kind of an all-encompassing family story, and how that ties into history, how baseball ties into history, and because just feels like a documentary right here with this little opening part, and I guess. Had I never realized, or had I not known what this was before I started, I'd been like, "Oh, what you watching? Huh? You watching a documentary on baseball and family cat?"
About this, like, one guy who remembers, who's talking about everything from this lens of his father that never made it in baseball.
Well, who knows? He could go on to do great things. He could spawn a son who will go and do strange things like dream in a field.
I think this is a good way to give some exposition without doing straight up flashbacks.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like watching somebody's home movies.
Yeah.
And I like that. I mean, this isn't within any kind of context. He's not saying this to anyone in particular except for us. So it is an opening narration. But we're getting all this information that we're going to need for later. I really wish that guy had been holding a pitchfork in that in that picture in front of that farmhouse. Anyway, but like, you know, I think a less smart film might have given us a lot of this just through, you know, snippets of flashback throughout the movie. And this is a way, you know, not only to get all that up front and get it out of the way, but it's also a way to make it look kind of personal and real. And, like, you know, we've got some, like, you know, grainy home movie footage and some old pictures and stuff like that. And, like, it doesn't feel like a super polished thing. I mean, that's one of the things I like about this movie is that it doesn't look super polished.
Yeah, you know,
It's a well-made movie, but
it's kind of reflecting of what it is and where it's coming from. I mean,
exactly.
As you said earlier, it has that hometown feel, and it's necessary in order for.
It has the home field advantage, as it were.
You have to be able to suspend your disbelief, and if everything was super polished, it might come off as insincere. In fact, maybe that's why some of these sappy moments in this movie work so well. Is that
That's a good point.
You have that down-home feel. And also Kevin Costner's voice just brings a down-home feel with it. Just why he's so good as Superman's dad, that's all.
Yeah, well, that's why I was stoked when they chose him. It was because of this movie. I was like, oh, cool, he's going to play a farmer again. Except he's going to play somebody that actually wanted to be a farmer. Because what I like about this is that you can buy Kevin Costner. I mean, he looks like a movie star, but he doesn't look like a movie star. Kevin Costner is a guy who, if you put him in, like, a big, kind of rugged action movie type role, he can potentially pull it off. But if you put him in a role like this, you also buy he lives on a farm in Iowa. Even though part of the whole ideal with this character is that he didn't want to be a farmer. He doesn't know the first thing about it, but he still looks like somebody that's from the Midwest.
His crops are all nice and green for a guy that doesn't want to be a farmer.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's doing a really good job.
I like that he just walks off camera and then runs back when there's that disembodied voice. You know, if you heard somebody whispering to you in the middle of the field, wouldn't you just assume that there was someone hiding and that you should probably get out of there before you get stabbed?
Yeah, probably so. But I think, I mean, I like how close the camera stays to Kevin Costner here at the beginning of this, and how, like with him and in his head we kind of are, because he's afraid he's gotten disconnected. He doesn't like this kind of life. He doesn't like living out away from, you know, the world as he sees it. He's a city boy, you know, and so like for somebody like him that's been doing this a little longer than he's comfortable with, yeah, the first thing that comes to his head is oh, I'm hearing voices.
That's a good point. Who will come? John Stamos? he didn't say. It's a good line.
His wife is snarky and hilarious. She's a lot of what makes this movie work, because if you have somebody that's going to be inspired to do something that is on the surface of it a really stupid idea, and you know this ambition to do something as she says later, totally illogical, you need somebody like her that's going to be supportive. And like this movie would have been no fun, and both of them would have been a lot less sympathetic if the whole thing had centered around this big argument about how this isn't a real voice and you're going insane. No, that would have been no fun. It's really, I think even you know, at the time this was made, it was probably refreshing to see a couple in a movie like this that stayed married and got along and had a daughter and like knew how to relate to each other. You know what I mean? Like, because even at this point, we were kind of inundated with movies that were about divorcees.
You know, I feel like part of what's making this work and what's amusing about it is that they have these goofy little lines coming from Kevin Costner. Like, he gets up out of bed, he walks over the window, and she says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Nothing, I'm just talking to the cornfield." It's a heck of a line.
Well, it makes it kind of real, I think.
Because I
think these people talk like real people talk. At least, you know, real people that aren't like obnoxiously conflicted about everything. You know what I mean? Like, you know, these are kind of normal people living. That picture has distracted me. Why do they have Marilyn Monroe staring at them?
It's kind of a popular thing, though. People love Marilyn Monroe. She's kind of like the female Elvis when it comes to decorating with tacky things.
That's a good point.
I intentionally meant that it's all kind of silly and tacky and pop arty and
with tacky things.
And I mean, people love it. And suddenly there's like 20 women listening to this, and we're like, wait, we have 20 people. Hooray!
I like how all these old gentlemen or these older gentlemen in this store, now it's going to get all the way around town. Oh man, Ray's going crazy.
He's like, oh crap, here's the world going to heck.
You know, talking again about that, there's just a lot of really beautiful photography in this. Talking again about the montage at the beginning, that doesn't feel like the beginning of the movie. It kind of feels like a prologue. And
yeah,
so once you get into the movie, and I mean, like, you've already heard a lot about this guy's life, but I don't think you're thinking about that stuff. I think that stuff doesn't come to you until you get into when it matters. You know what I mean? And then maybe it comes back. And so I think it's neat that we don't spend a whole lot of time establishing these people. We get right into it. This is how you write good short fiction. You know, you just jump right into it, and then we explore these people through a situation. I love the simplicity of this kind of occasion for story. So you got a guy who is a farmer that didn't want to be a farmer, and he's doing the best he can with his family, and then a voice starts talking to him. Go.
You know, one of the things I kind of like, you mentioned something about this earlier, about where the camera is placed and how close he is to the camera. When you're in these rural settings, the dominant feature of the land is not really the landscape, it's more the sky. So
that's a good point.
Every so often we'll get these shots, like right now we're starting to back up and we're starting to see more and more of the sky, but there is this rigid division: horizon, ground, sky. And so if they didn't do that, it would almost just be shots of grass, him, and sky.
That's a really good point.
So I feel like what they're doing, and especially they're putting a lot of things in the foreground. they're choosing their shots wisely.
I love that. She asks him if he's ever taken acid. And he says no, and she says, well, maybe you will someday. It's like a flash forward. She's hilarious.
You know, I've only seen that
and I don't think she's too sarcastic either. Like I think they, and this is just how they interact. You know what I mean? Like I don't think she's making fun of him any more than he's making fun of himself. I love this couple. Like you know, you see these two, and you hope you'll have a relationship like this when you watch these two people together.
You know, there's something to say about the witty couple, like people who work well together, and they just, their conversations are kind of like a tennis match. You know, that one person says something kind of silly, and the other person says something that's witty back, and then the game's going.
And that can't be easy to cast either. You know, I always like to go back to Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder. If you don't have the right chemistry, this relationship doesn't work. You know, what if they had cast the wrong wife for, you know, Kevin Costner's character?
Yeah, which I've seen her, like, what was it? I enjoyed her in Uncle Buck. So
I think I've seen her in one or two other small things, and I can't remember what. Every now and again, she'll pop up, and I'm like, oh man, she's still around. But it's been a while since I've seen her in anything.
She has good comic timing, and you haven't seen her.
Well, and then the speech she gives later about the '60s is hilarious.
Because everything that happened in the '60s was hilarious.
But her big speech about book burning. Just wait till we get to it. It's great.
It's been a little while, so I kind of forget what she says, but.
Well, you'll just have to pay attention. Everybody bear with Vince. He's going to watch this movie well.
All right, shut up. Don't talk to me while watching this movie.
Just generally, how do you feel about Kevin Costner as an actor?
I like him. I feel like he's a little understated, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And I also think that over the years he's gotten better. Like I think he was okay when he started. I think that progressively he's really come into his own. And I think the roles he's been cast in has kind of reflected that. I mean, of course, when you get popular, you can choose what you do more than just choose what you get. But I like Kevin Costner a lot. And I think we've had this conversation before.
Oh, have we?
Yeah. You like Kevin Costner a lot? I'm assuming you do.
And because of this movie.
Okay.
I mean, like, because like I said, this was really kind of burned in my brain when I was a kid, and so this was the thing I knew him from. So yeah, when I see him in other things, I always really like him, but I think of him as this character.
The thing that I knew Kevin Costner from was The Bodyguard, believe it or not.
Oh, cool, yeah.
Which I really liked that movie. I didn't really care what anyone said.
I think it's really unfortunate that Waterworld happened because I think his career would have gone in a very different direction. That's not to say that he's had a terrible career since then, but but I mean, like, he would have had, if that had been successful, he would have had star vehicle after star vehicle.
Yeah.
It's questionable whether or not he makes a great action star.
Oh, he was okay in The Postman, which is kind of like the Waterworld on land, but it was all right.
I've heard he's been in a number of westerns, but I've never seen any of them.
Oh, he's terrific in a western. Oh, one of them, I've seen him in a couple. He was in Wider. I'm pretty sure that was one of his. And another thing that he was in, and I loved this movie, if I can remember the name of it. It had Robert Duvall in it. And, Open Range. If you've not seen Open Range, I highly recommend it. It's totally worthwhile.
One of the things I really admire about this character, about Ray, is that he talks to his daughter like an adult.
Yeah, you know, every so often,
which I just always really appreciate with characters. And you know, of course, she's all into baseball because her dad is, and she's an only child. Yeah,
you know. It annoys me, and I realize this isn't really about the movie; it's more just about life in general.
Well, that's okay, man.
When people look down at kids and go, you know, the thing I like the most about this is, why are you talking to the kid like that? He'll understand you if you talk to him like he's a person. I realize that you might have to explain a word or two if you speak to him.
And it's cool that you mentioned that, because there's a part right here where he mentions to her, as he's telling the story about Shoeless Joe Jackson, that he was forced to throw games, and she says, "What's through?" And then he explains it to her. You know, what's suspend? Yeah, so I mean, you have a number of places where he'll just talk to her like. You know, you talk just over kids' heads, and then they're forced to elevate themselves.
Yeah, and it's a progression. You know, You start, you say something, and the kid goes, "Oh, I don't know what that means," and then you go, "Oh, okay, well, let me tell you." It's not that hard.
I think there's something inherently both eerie if you shoot it a certain way and romantic if you shoot it a certain way about this setting.
Yeah.
Both. Because, I mean, like, this thing, this part here, by the way, the simplicity of this movie is really refreshing to me. That's, like, this is the kind of movie I put in when I really want to relax, you know what I mean? When I want to forget about how super ultra busy the kind of life I lead is, I put in a movie like this. But, like, I don't know, seeing Raina's wife sitting like on a picnic blanket out in this setting, it's really romantic.
Yeah, and you know, it's not going to break them to have this little plot of land for a baseball field. And you know, it's some people will put up a basketball goal in their.
Well, actually, it will. That's the whole point.
Oh yeah. Oh okay.
Yeah,
well,
that's where the story is going.
She's not worried about it at all.
They just she's trusting him. You know, but yeah, no, they plow under the field, and they're hoping that something is going to come of this. And then, of course, you know, the ghost of Shoeless Joe Jackson will show up, but that's not going to bring them anything monetary until they get to the end of the movie. So, no, the whole thing is they're going to be. Now I'm going to tell Vince what the plot of this story is.
Okay. As I said, it's been a year, so I missed something.
No, that's all right. But so what happens is they've plowed under the corn, and so they don't have enough of a corn crop now. And they're going to have to, and they've also spent all their savings on the field, so they have no money left, and so they're not going to make enough from what they usually would, and then they end up having to, almost foreclose the house, which they are refusing to do. So that's the subplot. When he goes on his road trip, that's what she's dealing with at home.
Right on.
Hey, that might have been helpful for other people watching this. I don't expect anybody knows this movie as well as I do, probably. See, they're doing their bills right now.
And now we really get the... Here's the scene, guys. Everybody shut up and let's watch the movie. Especially you sitting in the back.
This is an odd sort of movie to do a commentary on because it's a dialogue-driven movie. So it's all of the story is through these exchanges and discourse that these people have. So this might not have been the best pick. But
for a commentary.
But I was just being honest. You know, we wanted to pick movies that most influenced us. And the thing is, I'm such a superhero guy that, you know, the other one was Batman. We've done that. So, Ninja Turtles, done that.
That's true. So, you know, you said something earlier that I thought was interesting, and by earlier I mean almost immediately. But it was about how you shoot it. It could be either really boring or really romantic, and.
Well, I said creepy because when he's in the field, like that could borderline on horror, and at least like odd and strange. I mean, after a while, we're gonna see the ghosts of the baseball players go into the corn, and like it's almost not even a special effect. Like they just kind of fade out, and it's not hard to do. I could do it right now. It's not hard to do. Maybe it was harder at the time before you had digital editing equipment, but software. But you know what I mean. It's a very simple thing, and yet there's something like really surreal and kind of strange about it.
I think a lot of it should be credited to the lighting because I feel like the lighting's really interesting here, and a lot of the time they'll show. And I think it's intentional so that it's not creepy. It's not he's just looking out in the darkness going, "Well, I'm talking to the cornfield, honey." So he looks, and especially right here, just a random man standing out in the middle of your yard. That could be really creepy, but he's not carrying a baseball bat. He's carrying a glove, so I guess he's going to glove you to death.
Well, even if he was carrying a baseball bat, he's a baseball player, so you wouldn't immediately assume that he's going to attack you with it.
Well, I'd still be a little freaked out.
I love that you said baseball bat.
That was intentional. And also, Ray Liotta standing out in your yard could be freaky just in general.
I also really like Ray Liotta. But
me too. I think of him as the guy from Goodfellas, though.
I think one of the reasons that that this movie always stuck with me and left such an impression on me is because within the context of it, while I'm watching it, it gives me the same affinity for baseball that it has. As soon as I turn it off, I don't have that anymore. I'm not a big baseball guy. It's not my favorite thing, but this movie makes me care.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's what's really good about sports movies is the ones that make you care about the team, or the ones that make you care about the people, make you care about the team, makes you care about the sport, which makes you care about the outcome.
And a lot of it is because of how passionate they are for it.
Yeah.
When he starts talking about, I'm talking about Shoeless Joe here, Ray Liotta's character. When he starts talking about like the smell of the glove and the sights and the sounds and the taste and everything about the game, it's infectious.
Yeah,
it's infectious.
I really enjoy movies like that make you care about the characters. And I don't even mind if we start off not caring about the characters, but or like they seem unsympathetic, but throughout the movie,
get with them, yeah.
Like I realize it's a completely different beast, but The Replacements is a movie like that, and I enjoy watching these kind of underdogs or these people who are not the champs come into their own, and that's kind of what's going on here. A guy that's not doing what he wants to do with his life. And he's just going on this instinct. This voice tells him to do something, and he says, "All right, well, let's go with it." Yeah,
he's taking it on faith. He doesn't even know what it is. I like that they don't even broach too much the question of religion here. That it's simply, well, there's a greater force that we don't understand. These aren't especially religious people. We know that these ghosty baseball players have got to be coming back and forth from somewhere, presumably heaven. Well, actually, more likely, if I was to really get into it, that's the best. Yeah, they're going to the cosmic dugout. No, they actually, this just occurred to me. And let me preface this by saying that this is a movie with very simple ideas, and it doesn't want to broach this stuff too hard, but I can't help but think about it. Technically, they've got to be in purgatory, and the reason is because when they finish this exchange, Shoeless Joe is going to ask Ray, "Is this heaven?" Well, if he thinks that this baseball diamond is heaven, then that's not where he came from. So where are they? They're somewhere between life and death.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, and
I really like that. Or maybe they're in heaven, but there's no baseball there, so it's not heaven for them.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You hear that, God? No baseball in heaven.
Yeah, if hell was different for everyone, which is a classic idea in a lot of stories about hell, if different people have different sorts of hells, it only stands to reason that what a person would consider paradise would be different for each kind of person. I'm always irritated by, as much as I love Star Trek, I'm always irritated by TOS episodes where they'll beam down to a planet and they'll talk about how much it looks like paradise, and I'm like, well, it looks boring. I mean, yeah, okay, so the trees in the sky are nice, but what is there to do? So. How is this paradise for everyone? Yeah?
That's one of the things that a lot of people say, hey, I really, really want to go to Hawaii. And I say, oh, sure, I wouldn't mind going and seeing volcanoes, but ultimately it would just be eating food in another part of the world. It's not my bag. That was a good hit.
I was talking earlier about the simplicity of this movie and how it constantly drives me back. It's kind of neat thinking about the perspective of what '89 was like versus now, versus what the '50s were like as opposed to '89. This is a movie about how life is more complicated now and it used to be simpler, and that's from the perspective of.
Take that, Kevin Costner.
That's from the perspective of people in 1989. He talks about. He talks here in the scene about how he doesn't like night games because it's harder to see the ball. But these days they do a lot more night games for various reasons.
Yeah,
and how it's easier to get people there at different times than in different things like that. So, and this is where we get why Shoeless Joe loves baseball so much. He says exactly. You're gonna laugh at me when I say this. He says exactly what Jason David Frank says about playing Tommy in Power Rangers. He'd do it for free. He loved it so much. He had such a passion for it. He'd do it for nothing.
So, are we to presume here that he is conscious in whatever purgatory he's in. Because it seems to be it's been a long, long time since he's played baseball. Either that or it's hard to keep his memory wherever he is. Like maybe he's just kind of, maybe the purgatory, I guess that's what we're going to call it right now, is kind of like a non-entity, but the passage of time.
No, and we have, and actually, we have evidence that he is conscious there because he knows that the rest of the players are there.
Oh.
Because he goes back to get them.
There is some religious, there is some theology that say that the gates of heaven opened at a particular time, and it's doesn't matter how many people are waiting or how long they've had to wait, and it's regardless of what's considered fair. Some people wait for millennia, and some people wait for 10 minutes before they can get in.
But what's weird is in the context of this movie, they seem to know like how time passes because they come at specific times, and so I always figured that he was just kind of reliving those experiences verbally because he had an audience. Yeah, as he's standing there discussing, how much he loved baseball. I mean, I'm sure if he is conscious wherever he is, he thinks about it all the time. It's also interesting that he knows what the rules are.
The rules. Oh yeah, okay.
That he can't go into the house. He can't pass those rocks. They have built something that is a bridge point between whatever afterlife he is in and the real world, and you can't. If you are a ghost, you can't get past that.
Well, he says he doesn't think he can, so I wonder if maybe because he is a kind of a supernatural being, he just senses that he can't, as opposed to just knowing that he can't.
Well, and of course, when we get to the end of the movie, we'll actually see one cross it and see what happens to him. And at that point, it's really hard to really understand what the rules are. That gets kind of strange, but okay, whatever. This is there's somewhat of a what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like completely sensical. Like I feel like it has an internal logic and it works within it, but it doesn't ever completely 100% explain what the logic is.
I also think that
which is somewhat fair because it's a cosmic thing, so it's like no one involved really gets it. It's like it's beyond human understanding, which is maybe a cop out, but it's also not exactly about those rules. It's just that it helps us to not be distracted by them because it seems to be consistent with them.
I mean, maybe that, as you called it, a bridge point, which I think that's an interesting way to put it. This is the limited area where they can cross back and forth between, but maybe as the movie goes on, as the popularity of the field and as people get more interested in seeing what's going on, maybe since it's not just them and their property, maybe now that there's a wider acclaim and a wider interest, now they can cross over.
I mean, there's no way to know that because we don't see it. And then the question is, what happens to the guy at the end who was young and then crossed over and then became old? What happens to that guy? But we'll get there if you don't know what I'm talking about right now.
Yeah, as I said, it's been a while.
It's been a while since you've seen it, yeah.
I know so much more than you think I know because I've seen this movie before. What's a crop? Well, now he gets to be explained what a crop is, right? Because you talk just above their head.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He's an adult.
You're excused.
So, Vince, have you been to very many baseball games?
I've been to a few. I used to play baseball when I was in.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, when I was very young.
When I was very young.
It's defined very young. When I was in grade school, I played pretty much everything.
That is a pretty looking baseball diamond.
It is a nice baseball diamond.
That's why I play in right field, out where the dandelions grow. I love that we get to kind of go back to the 50s here for a little while. That's fun, and these guys do a great job of playing that.
Hooray! They've just been in purgatory in their baseball outfits this whole
time. Yeah. It's surreal.
Maybe
that was the word I was looking for earlier. There's this surreality to all of this.
Maybe it's a bridge point from hell. Maybe they're just
they get this reprieve. I think probably not, Vince. I think that's probably not the idea here.
Maybe their hell is that they have to be tortured with the fact that they can't play baseball, and then suddenly somebody builds this field, and they're like, "Oh, thank God, we can move over."
How young were you when you played baseball, Vince?
Oh God, I don't know. I was in grade school.
Oh, okay.
I played it for a number of years, though.
That's cool. What position did you play?
I was always in the outfield because I sucked. I was so bad.
Out where the dead.
I was so heavy I couldn't even slide.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's an angry dude.
See, they know where they are. They know how long time has passed. And I really enjoy that about that. I like that they're not oblivious to everything. It's fun that these guys know their ghosts.
Yeah.
But don't draw too much attention to it. I mean, there's a lot of subtlety in this movie. Like, everybody understands what's going on, so they don't feel the need to talk about it.
She's adorable.
Yeah, that's a great exchange there, where they start cussing, and then the little girl's like, I don't mind.
And I like that they're salty. I like that they're not just. This isn't so whimsical as everyone is child appropriate all the time. These are men. They're guys having a good time out on they're doing a little raillery, jibing each other a little bit.
Well, they feel like real people.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I like about this, is that it is, by all accounts, a family movie, but it's smart enough to not be too, like obnoxiously storybook about it. I mean, like, these do feel like real people. And so adult things come up.
Yeah. Eight of what? There's at least 8 blades of grass out there on that field.
8 of 9. They're bored. So you get this kind of faith thing here of, you have to already believe they're there in order to see them.
Yeah, kind of like the boogeyman, right?
Yes, it's just like that, Vince. And see, that's where I get off saying that, you can shoot this creepy, or you can.
It's like boogie ball. It's a new kind of game. You hit a ball into the outfield, you abduct a kid.
That's not funny. That's not funny, Vince.
Yeah, sure it is. She's laughing.
She's not laughing at you.
Well, that's true.
She's in a movie that was made over 20 years ago.
Let's just play some ball.
Vince, that would be a great exercise. We'll just watch films and have you make jokes and see if the people in the movies notice.
I'll time it out right. I'll watch it before. I'll take notes at each timestamp.
He talks about when he died, and this is great.
He seems to be the itchiest guy in the world. just stand there scratching everything.
There's a lot of interesting logistics in shooting something like this. It feels like it would be very easy to shoot a movie like this because until we start going places, which is not really until the middle of the film, we're kind of in this one place, and
because we have no idea where they're going.
No, we don't. I'm Melvin. we don't really know. I'm sorry. What I was going to say is, so we're kind of in one place through most of this movie, and it seems like it would be really easy to shoot. But if you look at it, there's somewhat of an inconsistency in like what the sky looks like between certain shots, where like it seems later at night or earlier in the evening. It had to have been really difficult to shoot this. To get the sky to look like you want it to, because like and they do a pretty good job of making it consistent, but every now and again you can kind of tell, it's bluer than it was before, and that kind of thing. There's a lot of talk in one of the special features on this disc about a magic hour. You know what magic hour is?
Yeah, that's where you get drinks for cheaper, right?
No, but do you know what magic hour is?
Yeah.
That was a big thing with this movie, was being able to shoot sunsets, because you only have like 10-15 minutes to get the take you want with a sunset.
It's interesting because the sunset that we saw when they were sitting in the field, the newly finished field, and you mentioned how it could.
Sorry, that's one of my favorite lines in the movie. When he says he heard the voice again, she says, "Oh God, it didn't tell you to build a football field, did it?"
That's angels in the... Wait.
I never get tired of her. Anyway, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
But I sort of thought the
It's a
sunset
very
looked fabricated.
voice. It's not.
It's not?
And they even talk, I think, a little bit about how people have thought that, and it's not. There are no visual effects done for any of that. They shot all that.
Oh, all right.
All that real.
That's right. I wouldn't put smut in schools. Just Slaughterhouse-Five.
Oh, Vince. I'd like to ease her pain. I love that line.
Make her drop acid. The 60s were kind of pornography.
Oh, Vince. Why did I pick you to do this movie with?
Well, you see, it's... We're not communists. We pay for our smut.
This was also my first... what was I going to say? This is also my first introduction to James Earl Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, Vader was, but
Yeah,
I didn't
outside
know
of Star
it.
Wars.
I didn't know that, you know. So, you know, a lot of these actors, this is the movie I think of when I think of them.
That's fair. Oh, that has to be the reason. You can't hold a pen. For those of you not watching the movie, you're like, what is he talking about right now?
That's what I was going to say, but I don't want you to elaborate.
I love that he's doodling all over the program, and his wife is so deeply interested in this and how people are being awful. And he's just sitting there going, ease his pain.
Yeah, what's cool is we're going to have a subvergence of subplots pretty quickly here, but we don't realize it. This immediately feels like a totally different, unrelated thing, right? This is a movie at first about nostalgia and about finding common ground with your family, because even though Ray's father isn't in most of this movie because he's dead, it becomes very much a story about a man going on a trip, both physically and metaphorically, to though there's no acid, in order to kind of discover this common ground that he has with his father. But then this whole thing about Terrence Mann ends up. Sorry, that part's really funny.
I love how everyone's head, they're like lemmings just looking at this going, what are you going to do? Ooh, that was harsh. What are you going to do?
I love that she calls her Ava Braun. That's below the belt. But yeah, like suddenly all of this kind of political, anti-book burning, peace over war stuff comes in, and you think, okay, what does that have anything to do with baseball? And then what I really like is just after we start thinking that, his wife says, because he realizes, well, wait a minute, Ease His Pain is about Terrence Mann. He had to go here in order to get that, because there's this kind of fate versus free will thing running through this movie, right? He has to be in certain places at certain times in order to understand what the voice tells him to do, and so there does seem to be some predestination going on with our very cryptic sort of god-ish thing that's going on in this, and so then she's going to after he says he thinks that that's about Terrence Mann, she's going to say, but what does that have to do with baseball? And that's just what the audience is asking. But what does any of what we just saw have to do with baseball? It's like all of a sudden this got really political. Why is that? What is this about? And then we go see Terrence Mann and we find out why.
Well, that's one of the things that I think is interesting is that, it's considered the American pastime. So when I hear that baseball, what does that have to do with, sort of American history, really? Well, everything.
Everything, yeah. Well, and I mean, you have to think about, racism and a lot of things that went into, that were going on in sports at the time, and I think it's really interesting, and I think it's important that Terrence Mann is a black man, and how that plays into the story without the movie ever calling attention to that.
Yeah, I mean, and they have this entire thing about the '60s, so I mean, you could call it subtle, but really, it's very present.
Yeah, but I don't think it's preachy about anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Well, especially because the things that these two get on about, or that she gets on about, because obviously he's in his own world right now, trying to figure out what fate is telling him to do. Right? With her, I think most of us, no matter where you might land politically, are going to be with her. Yeah, don't burn those books. There's a place for the literature that they're talking about.
That's right, kids. Don't burn books unless it is super, super cold.
I'm reminded of that silly disaster movie where they burned a Gutenberg Bible. I'm trying to remember what that movie was.
Was that The Day After?
The Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah. Sometimes I get those titles confused. The Day After and The Day After Tomorrow.
The Day After was set in Lawrence, Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah. Steve Gutenberg.
That's an interesting movie.
My wife's uncle was in that movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple people that were in it, and what's kind of fun is going back and watching that movie and seeing the places where that. By the way, we're mentioning this because Vince and I used to live in Lawrence. The places in that movie where like the town looks totally different, and the places where it's barely changed at all. Like there's a place where they show the corner of 9th and Iowa, which is blocks away from where my parents live, and they show that building that used to be an IGA, and that building has never changed. So that area right there, you would totally recognize it.
I lived extremely close to 9th and Iowa at one point. Hey, a bag of potatoes. I don't buy potatoes anymore. I like how he just says, yes.
Yeah, of course. There's so much rationale going on. Building the field was 5 to 10% weirder. Yeah, it's a really witty film, and I think that takes away from some of the sappiness, like that makes it a little bit easier to deal with. Because I mean, yeah, I'm gonna make no bones about it. This is a very touchy-feely film. That's not what I like about it.
Yeah, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's like you say all the time, you can get away with anything.
It is if it's not substantial, right? Like if it's superficial, if it's just like people win because there's love, or something like that. They win because they're the good guys, and there's nothing interesting about them. They don't seem like three-dimensional people, but the movie says there are good guys, so they win. That kind of thing I can't get behind. That's not what we have here.
Earlier you mentioned something about how a lot of movies like this, the couple ends up hating each other, and or they have a huge falling out toward. But this is kind of the falling out right here, where it's you can obviously tell that they're still in love, that they still care about each other, and they still want each other to be happy. But here's this guy that's going on faith, and here's her and when she's kind of at the end of her string, she still has something to fight for, because I guess now we had that little interlude about the book burning thing, and she has this passion right now, so she's not willing to give up.
To be fair, there's a bit of a cheat that happens here, though, which is like she's been with him on this whole time because she trusts him. That this is the point where fate has to intervene, or this would become a movie about them just fighting until the movie ended, because they both have a dream about Fenway Park, and it's the exact same dream, and so now she knows that there really is this kind of like divine intervention going on. If that hadn't happened, this would be a very different movie. So there's a little bit of a cheat that happens there. But the difficulty with it is, would we buy her continuing to blindly go with this? I mean, she has that line where she says, you can't go on a road trip while we're starving here in Iowa. It would be it would be difficult to suspend the the viewer's disbelief and by her just going along with this. So yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of a cheat, but I think the movie kind of needs it.
That was the best.
Yeah,
I love that.
When he pretends to, or when
put your hands up and get in the trunk.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Because the question you got to ask yourself is, well, if fate intervenes there, then why didn't she hear the voice also? Although we'll find that later on, Terrence Mann is also gonna see something that Ray sees that is given to him by the powers that be. So it does speak to people that aren't just him.
Well, of course.
And then obviously it's just like anything when you talk about cryptic destiny stuff. God works in mysterious ways.
One of my favorite movies. That's something they say. God works in mysterious ways. Want a mission from God.
Yep. Well, I'm glad we didn't decide to do that movie. I would have had nothing to say through that.
Like, oh look, they're singing and dancing.
I like that movie, but I would just want to sit there and watch it, kind of like I am with this one right now.
I feel like when he pulls that, something's going to flush.
Yeah, I mean, see, I always thought that was a strange way to do a door knocker.
I'm your father.
This is CNN.
Put your hands up and get in the trunk.
Simba. I love James Earl Jones.
He's great. He has great presence in his voice and his physicality.
I saw an interview he did in the 90s. I can't remember what show he was on, where somebody got him to just read pages out of the phone book.
That's pretty great. He's so grouchy.
Well, I also really enjoy one of the. I mean, this movie tackles lots of themes, and one of them that's really interesting is the price of fame.
Yeah. It almost. I mean, especially with these baseball players, it almost like the price of fame is not that it just costs you anything, but you can't keep it. I mean, you're going to die eventually, and then you all go to this purgatory in the middle of a cornfield.
Well, but there's also the political issue of people taking advantage of you, which is what destroyed Shoeless Joe's career.
Right.
The whole idea there was that he was trying to do the right thing, and he was forced to throw games, and so then he ended up quitting because he wouldn't do the dishonorable thing.
He should have gone to the minors.
And so this is a guy who's gotten disenfranchised because he's sick of people taking advantage of him.
You're insane.
You're from the 60s. Yeah, I love that. What is that? Will somebody explain to me what that is?
I'm not. I always thought it was for pest control.
Maybe it is. I also like how he gets kind of quirky here in a minute, where finally he'll sit down with Ray and he goes, "You want a pillow? You want some cookies?"
I love that happy face he has when he says, "You're from the '60s."
Being all sarcastic, yeah. When I was a kid, that scene kind of creeped me out a little bit. I was like, "Who is this guy? He's terrifying." But I find him immediately sympathetic now. I mean, like, you can totally understand why he's acting like this. Yeah. And again, they do a fantastic job of giving everybody in this movie a sense of humor.
And in the end, he's going to give the kids back their baseball.
I was wondering when that was going to come up. Here comes the best line in the entire movie. "That's not a gun, that's your finger. It's your finger." I'm not going to show you my gun.
It's phallic in some way, I'm sure of it.
So, Vince. No, it's not.
His gun looks just like a finger.
That's hilarious.
You want some cookies?
Yep, you are a pacifist. So, what else could we be talking about right now, Vince? Oh, look, he has books about Apple Computer.
He has computers about Apple computers.
that's. I think he has computers that are Apple computers, Vince.
His all of the world's information about Apple stored on a PC. He's so grouchy.
Well, but I mean, he spends all of his time alone. Like I said, he got sick of being taken advantage of. He didn't want to be a public figure anymore. I mean, what do you do when you get that famous but you don't want to be a public figure anymore?
Yeah, I mean, becoming a recluse is really your only option.
Yeah.
And this is prior to Amazon, so whoo boy. You have to go out and do things.
Prior to Amazon.
Yeah. Just get on Amazon, buy all the stuff you want, buy MREs. You can exist forever. As long as you have plumbing, you're fine.
Want some cookies?
Yes, please. Can I have a cookie?
Yeah, I could use some cookies right now. That sounds fantastic. Vince, what is your favorite sport to watch in person?
Basketball.
Yeah.
Really, because it's fast-paced and it's kind of fun. I mean, my favorite sport to talk to the athletes, none of them.
What do you mean by that?
Because it seems to be that every time I meet some athlete, he's an awful person. I don't understand. Maybe it's just my luck.
Oh, really?
The athletes are always jerks to me.
So here's Vince all down on sports.
Yeah.
People that play them.
Which, that's not fair. There was not Mario Chalmers, but the Mario from the basketball team at KU a few years ago. He was really super nice. But,
Vince.
He was a really nice guy. I ran into him at one of the stores I was working at, and I was like, "Oh, hey, Mario." He's like, "Oh, hey, you're that guy that I used to live next to." It was kind of amusing.
I always say that the only sport that I'll really watch on TV, and I don't do it very much, is basketball. Because, like you said, it's fast-paced enough that it can hold my attention. I have a hard time watching any other sport on television.
Yeah.
I like seeing baseball in person. I'm not bored with it if I'm watching it live.
Yeah.
The way I am on television, unless it's a no-hitter, because I went to one of those last summer. I went to a Royals game because we live out in Kansas City, and the Royals have not had a good team for a really long time. But then the last couple of years, they finally have gotten pretty decent. They've got a good team going, and so I went to a Royals game, and boy, it was so dull because nothing happened until the ninth inning.
So absolutely no one hit a ball until the ninth inning.
Till the ninth inning.
Neither team.
Nope.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That's boring.
Well, nobody got to run. I mean, people hit balls, but nobody got to run. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. A no hitter is not a baseball game in which the players are so incompetent they cannot connect with the ball. Vince,
Just a bunch of buck-toothed cats walking out with baseball bats. Do 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 do.
This is one of the better gags in the movie when he says, "What do you want?" and he gets all philosophical with him, and then they turn the camera around and you realize they're in front of a hot dog stand. He said, "No, what do you want?"
I did go to a Royals game last year. Got some free tickets. It was nice. So we went, and we were sitting right behind the dugout. It was kind of fun.
I also went to one with Aaron Dicer.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That was fun. Yeah. Except we got really sunburned.
Yeah, so did I. But at some point I made my wife get up so we could go like underneath that awning and stand inside the stadium so I wouldn't burn so dang much.
Let's talk a little bit about like what this section is about. Vince, how do you think you would handle being like ultra super famous and a public figure? Not just like you're like a great actor or something, but like this sort of thing where you're seen as like a humanitarian and you can do no wrong. Like do you think it's something you could handle, or would it like
depends?
Would it get you this cynical?
I feel like I could get that cynical if I became really what's the word I'm looking for? Controversial. If people started giving me a lot of flack for something that I'd written, that I could see myself getting that cynical.
And that's precisely what happens here.
So if I were just a public figure, where I might get tired of people coming up going, "Hey man, how you doing? Good to see you. You're Vince from blah blah blah," right? And I'd say, yeah. I would always be nice. I mean, it would, and I don't think I would ever lose that portion of my mind that says it's a good problem to have, because
do you think you're capable of it, like, or do you think you're the kind of person where it could change you the other way, where you like become too used to it, where like, oh, of course people come up to me because I'm this great person? Like,
I don't think I could do that. I think it would be more like oh, well, I'll say it this way.
I mean, I think you and I both have a certain degree of vanity, right? Like everybody does. Like,
well, yeah, everybody has a little portion of their ego that gets fed every time something cool happens to them. But I don't feel like I would be the type of person to take that for granted. And
I'd like to think I'm not either. But
I don't think that I could ever not be flattered by someone recognizing me. I don't think. Like, if I ever became super ungodly famous, sure, I might not be flattered, but I don't think I'd ever be mean to someone. Like, I've heard stories of people being mean, like what's that guy's name? Will Ferrell being mean to his fans. Apparently, he's just awful. Like,
oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's like, hey, you want my autograph? Yeah. You want to do a sex act with your best friend? No. Well, then you're not getting my autograph.
Really?
Yeah, I heard about that. But,
weird.
No, maybe I'm spreading rumors, but
yeah, I hope. Well, I mean, not that I hope you're spreading rumors, but
I hope he wouldn't do that.
I hope you're spreading rumors, Vince.
I hope you're spreading. You still beat your wife? No. Yes. Hey.
Stop spreading that rumor.
You think you could handle being famous?
I don't know. I think I would probably. I don't know if I would handle it as well as what you just described. I certainly would try. I mean, you don't want those sorts of things to change you too much.
Yeah.
But I think to a certain degree it's unavoidable. You know what I mean? Like it's hard not to see things for what they are. I mean, like you can't act like you're not. You can't completely be like, I'm not famous if you are famous. You know what I mean? So.
It just seemed like such an important moment. I got sucked in for a second.
Yeah.
I love his hat.
Well, it's a lot like the hats you wear, Vince.
That's a fact.
Yeah, you have
a small collection of hats.
Yeah, you have a Terrence Mann hat. I almost said Terrence Stamp hat. I was like, that's a different person.
I have a Terrence Stamp hairline.
That's when he tries to break into his apartment, and then he's like, kneel before Terrence Stamp.
Kneel before man.
Kneel before James Earl Jones.
He invaded the apartment.
It's really fun to see two guys start where they started, and then they very quickly become friends, and it's organic. You buy it.
Yeah. And I kind of like this little road trip because we get a change in scenery. So we have trees that overcome the sky a little bit. It's kind of neat. He trusts him to drive him and not turn around and then dump him in a ditch. That's nice.
Well, it's because they both have agreed that there's this divine intervention going on.
Yeah. That's sweet.
Earlier, he wouldn't have bought that, but the fact that Terrence Mann had to own up to, okay, fine, I saw the thing that I shouldn't have been able to see.
I think it's really silly that it was a good scene with the whole hand in the pocket thing, and it's like, it's a gun. That's your finger. No, it's not. It's a gun. Who would believe that you have a gun in your? It seems silly to me. I suppose if I was in a crowded public place, I would believe somebody that had their hand in their pocket, because who would just flash a gun around? You'd cause anarchy. But he just waved his gun. Oh, wait, that was his finger.
Vince.
There's too many P's in this word super. I'm sorry. I'll stop.
That's not funny. Why don't you say more things that aren't funny?
You don't meet many people named Archibald.
No, not anymore.
It's true. Now, Everything bad is from the IRS. He's right about that.
So where we're at in this movie right now, kind of coming up majorly into the third act, and I kind of like how this is split up, right? Where you have like the first act is Shoeless Joe Jackson, the second act is Terrence Mann, the third act is Moonlight Graham, and they all. If we were to really psychoanalyze this, they all kind of represent different parts of Ray. He's our main character, and these guys all sort of have. I don't even think they really have character arcs. I think they're more there to serve Ray's arc. But anyway. By the time you get to the third act of this movie and what kind of story's being told here, once this lady tells us that, oh, well, Graham's dead, he's been dead since 1972, that doesn't immediately preclude the idea that we're going to see him.
That's true.
And I think that anybody paying attention is going to think, well, we're still going to see that guy.
Right.
They just set up somebody that, it's very important for them to find him. He's, now they're interviewing people, they're trying to find out more about him. No, we're going to see that guy. We saw Shoeless Joe. We're going to see this guy.
There's a bunch of dead dudes walking around this movie. Of course dead guy's going to come back.
Yeah, of course. That's all I'm saying. Of course we're going to see that guy.
But they do kind of bait and switch you a little bit, because when they find out he's dead, they go like this little depressive mode where they're just chatting with this lady that knew him.
Yeah. Well, but that's the thing is that, of course, this is a movie about death and about the finality of death, and so when these people are dead, just because they have souls and we see them again, it doesn't make them alive again. There's still a definite finality to it, and I think that's what that image is at the end when we see Graham, the younger Graham walk across the rocks and become the older Graham. I think that's kind of what that's about. This is a movie all about mortality, and that's. I think part of the reason that we have such a kind of angry figure at first with Terrence Mann, such a disenfranchised character, is because he feels like his life is over.
That's an interesting idea.
He doesn't have anything left to live for. He did, the '60s were his time, and it's interesting that he has that joke with Ray. Oh, you're from the '60s. That was his time. That's where he's from. He feels like he is a ghost, and because he has nothing really left to do. At the end of this, he's gonna go and be the first human to visit wherever the ghosts go, and then he says he'll write a book about it. He gets his second wind through this. His life is not over, and he comes to discover that. In fact, what I said earlier is not entirely true. Kind of think of it. No, he has an arc too, and in fact, his arc is maybe as interesting as Ray's is, or more.
The '60s. I feel like a lot of '60s idealism either turned into this kind of like burnout culture where the idealism left, but the that free love and that kind of laxity of morals had switched from being idealistic and trying to create a more perfect culture, and just went into this self-indulgence, and so a lot of these political support, or a lot of these politics, kind of lost their support. A lot of this these cultural movements lost support. And so a guy like that is just left to deal with the fallout, because he's this now major figure that gets a lot of flack for having been a front runner, and now you don't have as many people supporting this idea. So maybe that's why life became so difficult for him. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing.
Yeah.
72, knew it.
But I think you're right. I think the whole deal there with Terrence Mann, like I said, is that since, by the way, the smoke is really cool there in this weird kind of time travel thing, and I don't know how in the world that happened, but okay. This, like I said, there's a lot of surreal in this movie. Things happen that don't make sense, but what I like is the movie knows it. But anyway, with Terrence Mann, it's this kind of idea that he is that he's done. You know what he had to tell the world, he's said, and he's finished with it, and the world can take it for what they're going to, and moving on, and or at least that's the kind of cynical viewpoint he has. He has this viewpoint that you know, the messages he had are outdated now, and you know, he'll come to discover that there's still a place for him.
Huh. You know, Ray Kinsella here, maybe his life was over when he had to work on that farm that he didn't want to work on.
Well, that's part of it. Part of it also is that he's got this chip on his shoulder about his father, who he never reconciled things with, and is gone now, and that the only thing they had in common was baseball, and so, but you're right, he has to get past that before he can move on and live the rest of his life. And so like I said, that's what this whole movie is about. It's about life and death, but it's also about figuring out how to put the past behind you and move on when you realize that you still have more life left. And that's why we spend time here with Graham, where clearly he's an older gentleman. He's at the end of his life, and he's made the most of it, despite the fact that he didn't get to do what he always wanted, which was play professional baseball. He doesn't get to live out that dream, so he does something he can do. He becomes a doctor, and he makes the best of it. But it's also about how, and I think this is the sappy part, but I still like it. The idea that dreams don't have to die, and I think even sometimes and again that plays out when the younger version of him finally gets to play baseball, because we're going to meet him in a little bit. They're almost two different people, and I think we've all experienced this. We get past our prime, or we get past the time that we could have taken the advantage of something to make a dream come true, to make some kind of aspiration we had happen, and for whatever reason we lose that. We're not able to do it, whether it was because we didn't take a chance when we should have, or because we weren't physically capable of it at the time, or we didn't have the talent, or whatever it was. But sometimes those dreams never go away. You know what I mean? Like, you still have them. You still wish you could, and you can either put that passion and energy towards something you really can do, like he does.
Right. So how do we really know that by the end of this movie we have a fully completed character arc, more than just wish fulfillment?
That's a good question, and I think it's because of the exchange that Ray will have at the end with Shoeless Joe, where he has this discussion with him where he says, what's in it for me? Why did I do all this? And then he finally makes amends with his father. But that's a good point. Did he have to go through all this for his father to show up and him finally make amends and then move on? But I think perhaps so. I think like meeting people like this guy, and meeting people like Terrence Mann, and realizing that you could stagnate out and stop living life, living in the past, because he's not fully living life. He's not really doing what he'd like to be doing. He's kind of just going through the motions. He's not really about anything. When you get to the end of the movie, it is kind of a happily ever after thing. He does kind of, get what he always wanted. It is that sort of a movie. But I think it's a non-realistic movie about people that seem real, and so it's easily forgiven.
And there is a hero's journey here. So he's trying so hard at something, so I feel like it's important to note that he gets something out of it, regardless of what it is. So you could almost say that is in itself a character arc. He does learn something at the end as a result of all of his working. Is he going to be better off in the future? Heck, who knows? But he got something out of it.
Yeah. I love his response to this when Ray says that most people, if they'd gotten that close to their dream, because he did and not managed it, it would kill them. And he says the real tragedy would have been if I'd only gotten to be a doctor for 5 minutes. He found something that mattered more.
Oh wow, yeah.
And I really like that. It's a good message. It's smart. I think it's true. I think it's important to remember that yes, you want to take opportunities when they come, but that doesn't mean they'll be the only ones, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that sometimes we get this idea in our heads that there's only one ideal life. And maybe we're kind of touching on this here, like, I can only be a writer, or whatever.
Yeah.
I can only define myself as what I'm doing. So if I'm farming, I'm not really being what I'm supposed to be.
And then if I failed at that, I'm a failure at life.
Yeah. So and then you find something else.
The right way to think about it, because I think careers and life goals are maybe like. Significant others. There's more fish in the sea.
It's a big sea. There's different kinds of fish.
Maybe, you know what I mean? Like, it's not something that ever comforts anyone when they've lost it. I think that, losing out on a big dream like that, I wanted to be a published writer, but it never happened for me. I wanted to be an actor, but I could never make that happen for me. When you have that big blow where sometimes you have that defining moment where you know that at this point there's no chance I'm ever going to go any farther in this thing I wanted to do. That's as hard as getting broken up with.
Yeah.
Maybe harder.
I mean, I guess it's all tied into self-identity and...
Absolutely it is.
Realizing what you're doing with your life isn't as negative as you thought it was previously. And that's almost made more prevalent within this movie by James Earl Jones's character, that suddenly here's this guy who's so angry about his life, as opposed to that kind of subtle dissatisfaction that Ray has.
Yeah, and then you round that out completely with Moonlight, who is completely satisfied with where his life has gone, knowing that he doesn't have many years left.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And I think it's interesting how much he likes being a doctor. And I'll tell you what, I'm just now getting to the end. I realize how little this has to do with anything, but I'm just now getting to the end of this PTA school that I'm doing, physical therapy assistant stuff. And I was at my wife's Christmas party, and there was this guy with terrible posture. And this guy was telling me, he said, I have a lot of pain right here. And I said, well, really, I can't diagnose, but what it sounds like to me is this. So I told him what I thought was going on. I gave him some exercises, some stretches to help him out. And now the other day, my wife's friend comes up to her and says, hey, your husband is such a big topic around my house now. He's telling me how much better he feels, and I hear that guy's name about every day. And I was like, well, that's really nice. And, it makes you feel good because I mean, and so I can relate that in some way to baseball here. Because so here Moonlight gets wanted to have satisfaction out of playing baseball. I mean, one of the big reasons to play baseball is that people watch you and they get something, or people watch the sport and they get something out of the sport. So not only do you enjoy playing it, but you're bringing some kind of positivity into someone else's life. Win, lose, draw, somebody's cheering for somebody. And as a doctor, he gets to physically help people.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's this
He's
interesting
relevant
correlation.
in another way, and it's not just this kind of like self-fulfilling. People are seeing me do something amazing, but I'm actually doing something amazing for someone else. I need to address a couple things that were just brought up in the scene here, because it's as many times as I've seen this, it's been a while. I forgot what the whole thing was exactly with Ray and his father, and I said the only thing they had in common with baseball. In fact, baseball was the thing that tore them apart. I forgot about this. The whole idea, and that's why that's the whole theme of this movie. The whole idea is that he wasn't able to make it in baseball, and so he wanted his son to, so that he could live through him vicariously. And he kept forcing him to play baseball up until the age of 14, which was the reason that they didn't get along. And he has this line that I like, where he says, it was like taking out the trash or eating vegetables. I didn't like it, because his father was kind of forcing it on him and trying to live through him vicariously. And so if you look at all these other characters, it kind of comes into play. You can see why they're all involved. And then Terrence Mann is made more relevant by the fact that it was a book that he read by Terrence Mann that made him completely stop paying any attention to his father. And I really like that. I think that's really interesting.
It all comes full circle.
Yeah. So that's good stuff. Now, you know, are there a lot of coincidences in this movie? Yes, of course. It's a movie about coincidences. You know, I'm constantly complaining about plot contrivances. What we have here is a movie that is built on plot contrivances and is fully aware of it. I can still totally understand if that is enough to make it difficult for people to enjoy this movie, because it's not a realistic film in any way at all. But because it's a movie about divine intervention, you could say, well, that's too much of a cheat. There could be a smarter, cleverer way to go about it. There's also a certain amount of, well, this is based on a book and they're trying to be, you know, close to the source material. You know, there's always that kind of thing. I've never read this book. I really should.
I think they should rewrite it and make all of the baseball players zombies and call it Field of Scream.
Maybe we could do a re-edit or something.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that sounds great. Maybe there's a short film in there, Vince.
It'd be a very short film. Look, I built it, and they came. Oh God, they came.
They came.
They came from the corn. We could call it Baseballers of the Corn.
We should look up the at some point the little girl who's in this movie and see if she grew up to be an actress or not.
I think she was in Uncle Buck as well, wasn't she?
Really?
I think she was the little girl in Uncle Buck.
Oh, I never saw that.
Oh,
so I can't answer the question, wasn't she? Because I don't know.
Well, I'll find out later. Figure it out. He's wearing shoes. This is historically inaccurate.
He didn't always not wear shoes.
I like how starstruck he is just right now.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
And maybe it's not just being starstruck, but he's dead.
Well, yeah, God, yeah, exactly. He can't believe he can see him.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. How dare you use that thing that I built for no reason? Well, you guys do have baseball bats.
Yeah,
so.
You see what I mean? They clearly are conscious wherever they are, because Shoeless Joe was just talking about other guys that wanted to play there, and also they're bringing in other teams so they can have real games. So they have to find those people.
Yeah.
So wherever they are, they can find. But like I said, I really like how ambiguous that is. I think the ambiguity is part of what makes this movie work, because I feel like if they fleshed a lot of it out too much, it would fall apart at the seams.
That's fair.
You know, it is a movie that is more about the ideas and about these characters than it really is about this, like, logical sequence of events, which is not the traditional way to tell stories. You know what I mean? Like, I like to take everything on a case-by-case basis. This kind of storytelling does not usually work. And I think that's part of the reason that it sticks with people. This shouldn't work. You know, the whole thing should fall apart at the seams.
Something I kind of want to point out here. Yeah. I really like that Ray Liotta's character, Joe Jackson, this kid shows up, wants to play, and he says, well, suit up. And he's very welcoming. He's very inclusive here for this game. And I guess part of it is that Joe Jackson, just in that beginning moment of the movie, realizes just how important it is to play as opposed to make a living. And so I guess what I'm really saying is I like that there's this kind of sweetness in the salty nature of these characters, because immediately after the kid runs off, he looks back and says rookies, and so there's this kind of like there's these uncensored men that are doing a game together, and yet there's this kind of underlying care that they have for each other and respect for the game, respect for players. I think that's neat.
Yeah, exactly. There's a code between
them. They're all rolling their eyes at him. You think they brought an ump from the afterlife too?
Yeah.
He's not a baseball player. You'll join us.
Yeah, I guess he was one of us. I don't know. I guess he was forever self-defined as an umpire.
Poor guy. He said, I always wanted to play, but I didn't get my story arc.
His lifelong dream was to become an umpire.
Yeah. My lifelong dream was to be the Empire State Building.
The Empire State Building.
Yep.
That's great.
It's the tallest baseball-related building there is. You go to Transylvania, there's the Vampire State Building. Yeah, get a piece.
Vince, I don't think you and I have ever played sports together.
That's true. I really haven't played sports in a long time. I mean, I've done athletic things. Just this morning, I did some plyometrics, but...
Yeah.
There's not a lot of opportunities to play sports that are not super organized when you're an adult who doesn't have a lot of sport fan friends.
That's a good point.
Because
you kind of get a group of guys together if you're gonna play touch football or go out to a court and play basketball or I guess there's plenty of places where if we wanted to we could go just shoot one-on-one or something, but
yeah,
if you wanted to do basketball. But
we did attempt to play.
The problem
basketball
is you're taller than me, and so it would be hard to get anything around you. But,
that's true. I could dunk on you all the time. It would suck, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, you could dunk anything.
Who knows?
I do. You couldn't.
You don't know. I might have some ups. Oh my god, I totally.
Well, if it turned out that you did have ups,
yeah,
which will be the last time I ever say that.
Goes to downs.
Would be then I'll just change the game midstream and make it basketball. And then...
Slam. I don't really care for the way they handle people not being able to see them.
Okay, why is that?
It's I don't know. I feel like maybe that's just kind of... It's hard to have one person in the dark when everyone else is not, because then everything they say is kind of, no kidding, I know this is coming.
Yeah, one person, but I mean earlier it was more like 3-on-3. Earlier in the movie you had 3 people sitting there that couldn't see him, and 3 people that could, or 2 people that 3 people that could.
Well, I mean, even then, once you realize, and it doesn't take very long to realize that they can't see these people, then there's this kind of, I don't want to say hemming and hawing, but that's what I'm going to say, because I really don't know what the word I want to use is. They kind of look around and they say, well, I don't see anything. Do you see anything? No, I don't see anything. And I know it needs to happen. I just don't care for it much. And
yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, no, this scene is not ultra entertaining, but it's necessary.
There's no good way to pace something like that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it gives you kind of the cliche, she can see it because she's a kid, and it's kind of childlike wonder and that sort of thing. But then again, so can her parents, and they saw him first. So I think that makes it a little bit less cliche. But...
The girl was the first one to see, but what's his face? Ray heard the voice first.
Ray heard the voice first, and he also got the vision of the baseball field, which I don't think is supposed to just be this is
head going,
this is
that's
him.
A perfect spot.
That's what it would look like. I think that is a vision given to him by the divine, and also clearly when she says people will come, that's the next voice thing. The voice is now speaking through her. No, seriously.
No, I believe it, because it doesn't really feel like her dialogue that she had earlier.
Well, no, I mean, clearly, because she's suddenly having this epiphany. People will come. I mean, I do like that she says it sort of in the vernacular of a child, but I mean, so I mean, I don't think she's suddenly becoming possessed. I don't think he's possessed right now. While he's, I think he just gets it.
Yeah, there's this kind of wistfulness to them.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they placed the field there so that there could be a chance of them knocking out a window, because it's not baseball unless you've knocked a window out.
That's hilarious. And it is kind of weird that, we have this really intimate kind of movie that's just about this guy coming to grips with, issues with his father through baseball, because that was the point of contention, that turns into the whole world gets changed by it, where all these people just, randomly drive out having no idea why they're doing it. And and then just like, you know, forking their money over, and then they get rich. Like, it is a strange ending, and I've never known exactly how to take it, because like suddenly this whole world becomes this whimsical fantasy place after that, right? Like,
yeah.
You know, suddenly everybody that drives out knows these ghosts are here and that they're real. All right. So like, the problem is, and I hate to say this because I've never been a proponent for turn your brain off to enjoy something. But once you start really thinking about all this, you realize this is a morality play and not much else, right? I mean, it is. I mean, I like the people. Yeah, and I like the people, and I care about them. But like, as far as this as a world that you can buy existing with its own internal logic, yeah, kind of no by the end. I think, you know.
I really, really like this little speech that he gives here because it's so literary. It's just,
yeah.
And nobody can deliver it like James Earl Jones because he just feels like the perfect.
And we haven't gotten to really hear much of his writings, so he speaks like a writer.
Like the memory's so thick they'll have to brush it away from their faces.
Yeah,
it's a heck of a line.
You're like, well, and what's really cool too is they're going to invite him to go back into the corn with them, and he says, I'm going to write about it, and you know he just had all that stuff earlier about how he's never going to write again. This has changed him, and I like how he's speaking like this really eloquent writer, like it's all coming back to him, and then here in a little bit he's going to say, I'm going to write about it. Like he misses it. That's what he's good at. And this movie is somewhat about finding what you are great at versus what you want to do.
Right. Oh crap.
Yeah, and I always thought that was a little bit contrived.
It's not like, that high up.
That's not only that, but that situation, like where she falls there, that situation seemed a little too obvious. Like, oh, he picks her up. What's gonna happen? You know what I mean? Like,
and, the cyanosis.
Why would he pick her up?
The lips turning blue seems a little quick. I'm just saying.
Time passed.
Time is a fluid concept in this movie.
I'm kidding. I don't think time passed. But see here again, this guy gets to go back and live his life over, kind of, and just like he did before, he's going to give up his dream in order to do the thing that he was meant to do. And again, it's kind of I don't want to say it's straight up a destiny versus free will thing, but it is a question of destiny. You know, were people put on Earth for a specific purpose, or do people get to decide their own purpose? And I don't think that the movie completely comes down on that one way or another, because he makes a choice. He didn't have to do that, and he might have been a great baseball player. So I think it somewhat lets the viewer decide that.
And she's immediately unconscious just from having her airway blocked.
Yeah.
Well, children's respiratory rate are a lot faster than adults, so I guess maybe. Heck, I don't know. Thank your face.
But I mean, see, he doesn't regret it.
Yeah.
He's not gonna get to go live his dream again, and that's okay, because this is what he's meant to do. And again, like I said, the question is, and I think we get to decide for ourselves, is that because the divine made him that way, or is that because that's what he chose to do?
It's almost like there is a choice of free will in this, and that's like this movie is saying that you're not predestined for one thing. It's almost like they're using destiny to make you have a choice in your life.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Like there is some kind of divine intervention or some sort of otherworldly guidance that you have, but the only real I actually kind of like that line, though.
Yeah, one of these ball players again here. Yeah. But what's funny about that is there's no choice or idea that he got to that made it to where he could see it. It was simply, there's no way in the world that what happened in front of him would have made any sense if he didn't see them.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a cop-out.
When did the doctor get here?
doctor get here? Yeah. Wasn't he on Diagnosis Murder?
Doctor of the Corn.
Wait a minute. That's not Dick Van Dyke. But he totally could have been played by Dick Van Dyke.
I'm all awake and my lips aren't blue. I'm such a happy kid right now.
One question I always had is, what would have happened if Ray had completely ignored the voice? And I think the answer is he would have lived his life, and he would have never gone through this character arc. I don't think that he would have been forced to do anything he did. I don't think Terrence Mann was forced to do anything he did. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's that there's divine intervention only in that there's nudges in this, but maybe the idea is supposed to be, well, people ignore the nudges all the time. What if they completely embraced the nudges? Now, I'm also not saying that I subscribe to the idea that this is the way the world actually works, and I don't think that the movie is saying that this is the way the world actually works.
Yeah. Necessarily,
but I think it is asking questions in a kind of high concept kind of way. Is there such a thing as fate, and do we have a choice? Which is always a theme that I kind of gravitate toward.
I almost think that this character is invited as a result of him thinking his life is over, because now he's just writing code and he's hating his life, and whereas now, I don't know.
But as I said, he gets a second win. He's going to come back and write about it.
I don't quite understand why he's invited. Maybe
I'm with you. I don't really get it either, and it's again, it's a bit of a cop out. Part of the problem is everything you have a question about in this movie can easily be answered by beyond human comprehension. God works in mysterious ways. Blah 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 blah.
See, I thought the reason was he's Batman.
So maybe that's it. Maybe Terrence Mann is Batman.
Batman can do anything.
I don't think he's Batman. You said your finger was a gun. And then Ray Liotta's like, I wish I'd been there for that scene.
Ray Liotta's like, I wish I would have used that in Goodfellas. I had less money spent on this movie.
That's hilarious. But yeah, this does get really weird, right? Because through this, I don't know, it almost gets too big at the end. It's like through this really intimate experience that maybe anybody could have had if they'd listened to the divine whispering to them in a cornfield. Then it gets to everybody and his dog drives out to a farm having no idea why, and Terrence Mann writes a book that is the be-all, end-all explanation as to what is in the afterlife. This movie does have and that's why I said and thank God that never happened, but because I don't want to see where things go after this. I don't think you could make that work, and that's why I said if you really start to think about the actual logistics of this and the reality of it, it kind of falls apart at the end.
Third act.
I still love it, but I don't. Well, see, the thing is, it's all building to this is the problem. It's not third act syndrome because I think it knew where it was going all along.
Oh, that's true.
I don't think it's we had a great starting place, but we just didn't know how to end it. I think it was always going to be a really oddly sappy ending that was still incredibly interesting. And that's the thing, is that it ends in a really sappy way, but it's also really interesting. It's neat that this flesh and blood guy gets to go into the cornfield and see what's in there. And also, he's going to look in. He's going to look in, and he's like, He kind of gets to see what's there already before he even walks in, so that the people there are conscious.
Yeah, I'd be afraid to even try it, largely because how do you know you're going to come back?
How do you know you're going to come back? Yeah.
Purgatory.
That's hilarious. And then he walks in, and he's like, "Oh man, why am I in a huge metallic spaceship?"
Terrence Mann is abducted.
Yeah, this is the most elaborate alien abduction in the history of alien abductions. And then it turns out that this entire thing was an X-Files episode.
You must tell our story. I don't know what
it goes to credits. It goes to credits, and it goes.
Movie over. I don't call him a ghost. That ain't nice.
But he is a ghost.
Oh, that's fair. Who's he?
And I mean, I do like, because, you know, like I said earlier, he's got that whole speech about, you know, why do you assume that this was all about you? And then ultimately it kind of was. Because, you know, we get from Shoeless Joe Jackson, oh, if you build it, he will come, was not about Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yeah.
It was about his dad.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you think now that we've gotten here? Because I know you said it's been a while since you've seen this and really thought about it. I mean, like, do you think, because earlier you asked this question, so do you think he had a character arc that built him to this, or is it just wish fulfillment, as you were asking earlier?
I mean, and it does.
It's a good question.
Joe Jackson does say, "No, Ray, it was you."
Yeah.
Or it was like,
yeah, that's
you
right.
Worked towards this. So, I mean, maybe there's something to say that the development of faith and enjoying simple things in life and hard work in itself yields rewards of some kind.
Yeah, although the implications of that could be a little scary, right? I mean, you know, the idea of, you know, straight up blind faith. He doesn't even know what it is that's talking to him.
Yeah.
Although, although perhaps the idea is that it gives him enough of a hint that he knows that he can trust it. You know what I mean? It's telling him. It's telling him just enough that kind of gets him to this place, right? I mean, like everything that he's doing is very personally related to him, and so who whatever cosmic force is doing this knows him very well, and it's hard. It would be, you know, really the culmination of this, if it was a dastardly thing, would be simply, ha ha, I'm God and I made you lose your farm.
I kind of wonder why he doesn't recognize his son. Like, I get why he wouldn't recognize the wife and daughter. Those came later, but
I think he does, and he's afraid of broaching it right away. Because right at the end here, he's going to say, "Do you want to have a catch?" And then he's going to say, "Dad." I mean, they know who they are.
Okay.
But it would be too awkward. I think the idea is that it would be awkward to right away draw attention to it. I mean, like, look at the way he's looking at him. He knows who that is.
So, you're my boy. Do you still hate me?
So you're like 2 years older than me. Son.
Son. I like that he was the catcher.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Concealing his identity throughout this whole game. And it's almost like he could be the catcher and really think about what he wanted to say before walking up to him. And maybe that was his rehearsed line. Like, maybe there's some kind of, I don't want to say continuity, but that's what I'm going to say. Maybe there's some kind of family resemblance here, because Ray Kinsella and John Kinsella both practice lines in their heads. Like, we know he did, but it almost seemed rehearsed to walk up and say, "I'd like to thank you for building this beautiful field."
Well, yeah, that's true.
So
that's a good point.
That might be good writing, or it might be accidentally well done.
You know, Vince, when we go on our road trip next year, to talk to comic book stores, we should see where this is, because we're gonna go to Iowa, and this field exists still.
Oh,
you can go there and see it.
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool.
As far as I know, it's still there.
I'm gonna go take a nap in the field so I can have some dreams.
I think it would be hilarious if we went there and had this scene in our movie where by the way, for those of you that don't know, Vince and I are going to be next year making a documentary about comic book stores across the Midwest, and I was thinking it might be funny. I don't know. I mean, Iowa's a big state. I don't know if we could really go there, but you know, if we were able to, it would be really funny if we were like, "And here's Captain Vince at the Field of Dreams in Iowa."
We should abduct a writer and force some kind of doctor to walk around with us into this field.
That would be really funny. Okay, I want you to stand there and hesitate like you can't walk across these rocks without getting really old.
if we did go to this field, it would be kind of amusing because I would have gone to the place that was kind of the big, like, Ghostbusters joint for me.
Yeah.
Because I went there when I went on my honeymoon.
Oh, cool.
And then we could go to this place.
I'll finally get to see, because I've always wanted to see it. I mean, I'm going to get there and be like, okay, it's baseball diamond, but,
looks exactly like I expected to.
Yeah, it looks just like I expected it to.
We should go during happy hour.
Yeah. I mean, like,
magic.
He built it and I came. It's not happy hour, it's magic. So they built it and we will have come, and then we went the distance, and I don't know whose pain we will have eased, but,
We'll ease Brandon's by leaving.
He's like, why are we still here?
Oh, look, I can see.
It's like, oh man, I can see the ball. It's a good thing that you didn't pelt him in the face when the lights were off.
And you're right, he does know who he is, because he does say something about Dad, and the guy turns around, not even questioning it.
Yeah.
So
there. Yeah. I've seen this movie.
It's awkward manness.
Yeah, exactly.
Manliness.
They aren't sure how to deal with their feelings, Vince.
Yeah, that's how men deal with their feelings. They throw spherical objects at each other.
Now all these cars are coming. Now this is kind of the big problem with the ending that I had. Well, first of all, there's not going to be enough room for all those people to park. I mean, really,
yeah, that's a heck of a lot of people. And what are they going to watch?
That's ridiculous. But so here's the thing about the ending. I mean, it's nice, it's cute. I get what it's saying, but the thing about it is, we just had this long discussion, you and I, about how it seems to be a movie that allows for free will, and yet where did all these people come from? It's like, did God just force all these people to jump in their car and drive to that field? Like,
well, I mean, maybe part of the deal is that, like, word of this has spread.
Word of what, though? What has happened yet?
Word of these ghosts have spread, so people are interested, and they're coming. Well, there's this kind of magic baseball field. And
yeah, but
why right now? Why
right now? You're talking like minute because that we saw all that pretty much in real time, except for that part where time passed because that little girl couldn't have gone blue that fast.
The voice himself.
Yeah, I love that. That's hilarious. I wonder if you jumped on IMDb.
Hey, look, Brian Frankish is back.
I wonder if you jumped on IMDb, if you could figure out who that voice actually was. Like, I wonder if it's like an uncredited thing where you can figure out who did it.
I mean, maybe there's some announcer that's known as the voice, and
no. I think they just didn't want to tell you who it was, but because that's amusing.
Who's the writer whispering into a microphone? Tom's perishing. Oh no, Dan's right after him.
That's Pershing, you moron.
Oh,
that's Pershing. But you
You're
see,
adding
like,
letters.
How could how could word have spread, especially that fast? But I mean,
Yeah.
maybe
they're ghosts too. They're coming from the other side.
I get what you're saying, but you got to remember that, like, the only people that saw it didn't believe they were there besides the family, and they're not like making phone calls and sending out messages about this. So I mean, like, so that clearly is straight up divine intervention. So, like, the divine let these people that are important all make their choices for themselves and gave them clues about where he thought they ought to go, but then thousands of other people he just sent to a baseball field.
So you see, what happened is the brother-in-law, or whatever that guy's character's name was, he went running off, and he's like, oh my god, they're real, everyone come. So everyone from town called all of their buddies from adjacent towns, and then they all took the exact same road to get to the house.
So you think that sounds more likely and more plausible than divine intervention?
No,
me neither. And that's why I say that by the end of it, yeah, it's a whimsical fantasy, about people that happen to be real enough that I end up caring. Like I said, there is no reason this movie should have worked.
Yeah, I just kind of wish I knew what all those people were coming to see. Like, what they thought they were going to see. Like, the only thing in my head is that they think they're going to see a bunch of dead baseball players playing on a field.
Yeah.
So, what else could they think they're going to see? I mean, stories of this guy hearing and seeing things are getting around town. That's the only logical thing, is that they think they're going to hear and see what he's hearing and saying.
Yeah, but like I said, I think it's pretty indisputable that what's going on there has nothing to do with free will.
Fair enough.
So I don't know. I mean, I hate to say that now that I'm really thinking about that, I don't like this movie as well. That was always a thing that bugged me about this. But but I love the people involved, and I think a lot of the reason I like this movie so much is because it introduced me to so many of these really good actors that that was the thing that
this movie has a heck of a cast.
Well, Vince, thanks for doing this with me, man.
Yeah, it was fun.
This was a really challenging movie to come up with things to talk about all the way through it.
I think your favorite movies all came out in '89.
Yeah,
Batman, Field of Dreams,
The
Punisher.
I like that movie.
I do too. It's okay.
I know, Dolph Lundgren. We're supposed to hate him, but I like that movie.
Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah, he's okay. Well, everybody, thanks as always for listening to Geeks on Nerds, the podcast. That's it for us, and hopefully Vince will be back again soon with another commentary with me. I want to get back and do these again, Vince, because people have been anchoring for more commentaries, and I've done them with some other folks, but it's been a while since you've been on one, and we should do one on something that a little better, and that I have more to say about. I mean, it is one of my favorite movies, but I was about half an hour in, I was like, about exhausted everything I wanted to mention about this movie.
I think we kind of plumbed the depths and got into it and had some interesting ideas and some topics.
I certainly hope so. Well, anyway, thanks again, everybody. I hope you enjoyed watching the movie with us, or just listening to this podcast and wondering what Vince was talking about half the time.
I just took every opportunity to make a joke I could.
We'll see you again very soon. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
See you later.